Seeing the name Victor Collins printed on the order form in front of me, 1,000 possibilities flashed through my mind. Could it just be someone with the same name? But I immediately dismissed that thought. Even if the name matched, what were the odds it would be the same jewelry store, the same ring design? That level of coincidence was too much to believe. The pregnant woman standing before me noticed I had zoned out and smirked smugly. Now, you know you took the wrong order, don't you? If you don't apologize, don't even think about leaving. I just texted my husband. He's on his way. When he gets here, you're done for. I thought to myself, if it really is him, then what do I do? My instincts told me to run. Taking advantage of her moment of distraction, I slipped out of the jewelry store, made sure she wasn't following me, and ducked into a nearby cafe. A while, I saw that familiar car pull up in front of the store. The same man who had messaged me this morning, saying he had an urgent meeting, was now gently consoling the pregnant woman. "You're okay now." "I'm here," he said, rushing over, his tie still crooked from the haste. The woman, eyes swollen from crying, threw herself into his arms. "It's nothing," she said tearfully. "Just a few scuffles over a ring." The moment I mentioned my husband was coming, she panicked and ran. He glanced around anxiously, clearly checking to see if anything was amiss. "There are so many people lashing out at society these days," he said, especially targeting pregnant women. "She didn't hurt you, did she?" The woman shook her head, said something inaudible, then held her belly as he scooped her up and rushed her into the car. He murmured a few instructions to the man beside him before speeding off. Once the car disappeared from sight, I stepped out of the cafe. I walked straight up to the man who had accompanied him, his closest friend. He looked stunned for a moment, clearly flustered, out shopping at the mall too, sister-in-law. He asked awkwardly. I curved my lips slightly, my expression neutral. "So you knew?" He looked around guiltily, playing dumb. I don't know what you're talking about." I stared at him, taking a deep breath. "I'm the one you were investigating. The store clerk told me Victor ordered a ring and asked me to pick it up." Smart people don't need long explanations. Hearing that, Caleb immediately understood. Seeing the pale look on my face, he went quiet for a moment before gently attempting to explain. "Actually, it's nothing serious. Victor just messes around a bit outside. He didn't want you to find out because he knew it would hurt you." I didn't say a word, but my eyes burned and turned red anyway. Messes around. I thought of how tenderly Victor had been caring for that pregnant woman. Did that look like messing around to you? Caleb could see that even he didn't believe his own excuse. He opened his mouth again, as if to say more, then gave up. I didn't want to put anyone on the spot. I just said one thing. "Don't let Victor know you saw me." Then I turned and walked away. Stumbling back to my car, I stared blankly out the windshield for a long while, images from the day playing over in my mind. Eventually, I couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears spilled over. 8 years of marriage. I had always trusted Victor completely, so much so that I'd never once checked his phone. Maybe it was that trust that made it so easy for him to betray me openly. To love another woman, have a child with her, right in front of me. And judging by Caleb's reaction just now, it seemed like everyone already knew. Everyone but me. The fool. Wiping away the tears, I ordered a dash cam with live GPS tracking. When I got home, the place was quiet. I sat in silence for hours until late at night when Victor finally came back. He stepped into the dark room. "Why are the lights off?" he asked. I raised a hand to shield my eyes from the harsh, glaring light, saying nothing. When I finally lowered it, a delicate box had appeared before me. I looked up to see Victor smiling gently, his handsome features glowing under the light, just like he had when we first met. Asterisk, asterisk, my heart gave a faint, startled flutter. We had known each other since childhood, came from similar backgrounds, grew up together. When we entered university, he even gave up his passion for the arts to study finance with me. We started dating in our junior year and got married after graduation. After our wedding, he was always so gentle and attentive. Whatever I wanted, he'd find a way to give it to me. Even when the doctor told us I was physically too weak to have children, he never once showed disappointment. He told me we simply wouldn't have kids. Both our families adored him for that. Used to believe our marriage would stay perfect, just like that, forever. But today, I finally saw what hid beneath that flawless facade. With that thought, I took the box from his hand. Inside was an exquisite necklace. "Do you like it?" I picked it out especially for you. You've had it tough while I was away on that long business trip overseas. As he spoke, he leaned in to kiss me, but I instinctively turned my head away. He paused, caught off guard. What's wrong? I gave a faint smile. It's nothing. Did you have something to drink? You reek of alcohol? He frowned and sniffed himself. I didn't drink anything. Before he could say more, I turned and walked into the study. I still have work to finish. You go to bed first. Once inside, I took a deep breath. This man I once loved with all my heart. Now, just the thought of touching him made my skin crawl. I used to feel guilty toward Victor for not being able to give him a child. He once said, "To me, a life with 3 people is all food, bills, and stress. But 2 people, that's where the romance is." And yet now, here I was, discovering he was expecting a child with someone else. That woman's belly. She had to be over 7 months along, which meant they must have been together since his so-called business trip abroad. How could Victor do this? Sending me sweet messages on one hand, while on the other, getting another woman pregnant while I struggled to keep his company afloat. Just the thought of it wiped away any trace of sleep. Headed downstairs and installed the GPS tracking dashcam I had rushed to order on his car. The moment I finished, I went back upstairs and ran right into Victor, already in his coat, ready to leave. He seemed a little flustered seeing me. Thought you were still working? He asked. I raised an eyebrow. You just got home, and now you're heading out again? I glanced at the suitcase he had neatly placed by the door. Noticing my look, he said, something urgent came up at work. I need to go handle it. And just like that, he turned to leave. But for the past year, while he was abroad, I had been the one running the company, handling every deal, every crisis, and every board meeting. How could I not know whether something urgent required the CEO's personal attention? I sighed. You finally came back home after all this time. I thought you'd at least stay with me a little, but I guess it's the same as always. He paused, guilt flickering across his face, muttered a few comforting words, pulled me into his arms, and kissed my forehead. Be good. Once I'm done, I'll come back with gifts for you. And before I could respond, he was gone, leaving only an empty house behind. For the entire year he was supposedly studying abroad, this had become a routine. Back then, I used to find strength in that emptiness, thinking my resilience was what allowed Victor to pursue his goals overseas without worry. Now, that same emptiness felt like it was mocking me. I picked up my phone and looked through the investigation results. The woman's name was Lucy. She used to be Victor's secretary, that overseas training program of his. It was actually a year of playing house with Lucy. My hands trembled as I looked at the photo of them strolling sweetly down a foreign street, while I was holding the company together. Facing the pressure of questioning shareholders, they were kissing beside the Thames, while I was pulling all-nighters making strategic decisions. They were racing convertibles at dawn. And now, with him finally back in the country, he hadn't even seen me yet, but had already reunited with Lucy and her 7-month pregnant belly. I thought of the kiss he had just placed on my forehead. Before leaving, wiped it off with my hand. Disgusting. I stared at my phone screen, watching the live feed from the dashcam installed in Victor's car. As soon as he got in, he couldn't wait to call Lucy. Baby, I'm almost there. Did our little one miss me? A sweet voice responded on the other. And, of course, the baby's kicking right now. His eyes lit up with joy. Really? I'll be there in a second, he said, voice choked with emotion. I let out a faint, bitter smile. The sickening sweetness between them made me feel like the punchline of a cool joke. As Victor eagerly sped off to see Lucy, I reached out to my lawyer to begin divorce proceedings. From the moment the company was founded, I had poured my heart and soul into building it. Now that I decided to walk away, there was no way I'd let Victor and his cronies walk away with the fruits of my labor. After hearing the situation, my lawyer scheduled a meeting to discuss the details in more depth. Before ending the call, he cautiously reminded me, Mrs. Collins, marriages like yours, with deep financial entanglements, can make divorce incredibly difficult, even with proof of fault. I understood exactly what he meant. I know, I said, but this marriage, I'm ending it. After hanging up, I began reviewing the photos and evidence I'd gathered. While Victor was lost in his blissful bubble with Lucy, I hadn't sat idly by. Quietly, I had already begun legally shifting company assets under my own control. Despite being busy, Victor still found time to call me regularly, asking how I was. but those once heartwarming calls now felt meaningless. I simply replied out of courtesy. When he finally strutted back into the office, satisfied and self-assured, he walked into his own office only to find me already seated there, sliding a divorce agreement across the desk toward him. He stared at it in shock, as if unable to believe his eyes. Then he let out a laugh. "Tess, come on." "This isn't funny," I smirked. "Victor, I've never been the joking type." He opened his mouth to respond, but seeing the look in my eyes, his face gradually grew serious. After a long pause, he finally asked, "Why?" I smiled, faintly, but said nothing. I didn't even understand why he was still asking. He continued, "Is it because I went abroad and couldn't be here with you? Or because I've been so busy lately and haven't had time for you? Tess, you've always been so understanding. Why can't you be now?" Then his expression darkened. "Don't tell me. While I was gone, you met someone else." I'd already seen countless intimate photos of him and Lucy. Thought I was numb to the pain, but hearing the man I once shared a bed with question my fidelity it still cut deep. My silence must have fed his suspicions. His face turned pale. Voice hoarse, he pressed on. "Who is it? Tell me who." I shook my head. The gesture only made him angrier. He suddenly stepped closer. "Even now you're protecting him?" I didn't want to waste breath on pointless arguments. "Victor, not everyone's like you." His face went white. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked. I tossed all the photos and evidence I'd collected onto the desk. "Your babies. Doing well, I hope?" I said coolly. "From what I hear, it's been kicking lately." He swallowed hard, silent for a long moment. Then slowly, "Tess, you've misunderstood." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh? That woman. She's with Caleb. His family forced him to marry someone of equal status. They wouldn't let him be with an ordinary girl, so I was just helping take care of her. That's all." "That's all," he repeated. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, hadn't heard that phone call, I might have believed him. That his excuse wasn't landing, he tried a different angle. "I know I haven't been perfect lately, but did you really have to hire someone to spy on me? If something's wrong, we can talk it out. No need for all this secrecy." I gave him a cold smile. "Is that so?" Right then, I called Caleb in front of him. "Hello? Sis-in-law?" "All right, Tess. What a surprise. It's rare for you to call. What's up?" Before I could speak, Victor jumped in. "Caleb, remember how you said your parents wouldn't let Lucy into the family? That you asked me to look after her for a few days? Well, your sister-in-law misunderstood. Please clear it up. If not, she's going to divorce me." I glanced at Victor's anxious expression, then slowly asked, "Caleb, is that true?" Caleb hesitated. If we hadn't run into each other at the jewelry store, he might have gone along. With a lie now, Victor was clearly panicking, his voice tense. "Caleb, say something." After a pause, Caleb finally answered, guilt heavy in his voice. "Sorry, Victor. Lucy has nothing to do with me." He sighed. "Stop lying to her. This isn't good for either of you. You." Before he could finish, I ended the call. Victor looked at my unreadable expression in silence. "Well?" I asked. "Anything left to explain?" He opened his mouth, but said nothing. I pointed at the divorce papers. "Sign it." "Tess, just hear me out. What for?" I cut him off. "To explain how you cheated behind my back. How you promised never to have children, yet got someone else pregnant anyway. Tess, try to understand. We're not young anymore. Sometimes, when I see happy families with kids, I really do envy them. When the baby's born, it'll call you Mom. We'll be a happy family, all three of us." When someone runs out of words, they often laugh, and I laughed. "Victor, I never forced you to stay. If you wanted children, you could have just divorced me." He shouted, "How could I bear to divorce you? It's just a baby." "I promise. Once the child is born, I'll cut ties with Lucy." I scoffed. "Oh? How will you cut ties? Buy her another ring?" "What ring?" "Didn't you ask Caleb to arrange for someone to pretend to fight over a ring with her at the jewelry store?" His face froze. "That was you." I didn't answer. I just asked, "Victor, do you not understand what that ring meant? No matter how you try to twist things now, you can't change the fact that you broke your vow. The one where you said you'd only ever give a ring to one woman for the rest of your life. When we got married, Victor slipped the first ring onto my finger and promised, 'Tess, in this lifetime, I'll only ever buy a ring for you.' Since then, on every anniversary, he would give me a new ring and personally place it on my finger. But the moment I saw him give a ring to Lucy, everything became clear. If he refused to sign the divorce papers, I was prepared to take the matter to court. I had packed my things days ago, after making a clean break. I moved back into my old home. He chased me all the way to the gate once, and even sent the nanny to plead with me. I simply told her to ignore him. He sent countless bouquets, apology letters, and all sorts of rings. I stayed completely indifferent. What needed to be donated, I donated. What needed to be discarded, I discarded. What surprised me was how frequently Caleb started showing up. Once again, he used the excuse of discussing a project to appear in front of me. Eventually, I couldn't hold back anymore. Just tell me, what exactly do you want? What do you mean? Caleb asked, feigning innocence. I took a deep breath. Whatever your reason is, if you're here to talk me into reconciling with Victor, save your breath. He looked tense at first, but after hearing that last part, he actually seemed relieved. You're overthinking it. Whatever happens between you and Victor, that's your business. I won't interfere. I really did come to talk about the project. After you stepped down from the board, the company suffered heavy losses. If I keep working with them, I'll only lose money, so ... He looked at me with a smile that held a hint of amusement. Are you interested in partnering with me? I'll give you 10% of the profits. I hesitated for a moment. I couldn't deny Caleb's sharp instincts and business acumen. And we made a deal. He smiled and suggested, well then, why don't we celebrate a little? I've been stuck at home recently and was going stir crazy, so I agreed and got into his car. He took us to a quiet, private restaurant. Turning to me with a grin, Caleb said, the roast duck here is just as good as Kwanju's. I couldn't help smiling. I hadn't expected him to prepare ahead and remember that I loved roast duck. Thought back to the days before I was with Victor. I used to love roast duck, but Victor couldn't stand the smell. He wouldn't eat it and couldn't even be near. It stopped so gradually, I stopped eating it too. Now, after the divorce, it didn't matter whether it was roast duck, roast chicken, or boiled pork trotter. If I wanted to eat something, I would. I didn't need to consider anyone else. The food arrived quickly. Caleb just sat there watching me eat with a smile, not touching his own chopsticks. Halfway through the meal, I finally asked, why aren't you eating? He shook his head. Duck has a gamey smell. I'm not a fan. That sentence made me think of Victor. I set my half-chewed piece of meat down. If you don't like it, you should have said so earlier. We could have gone somewhere else. Caleb shook his head. As long as you're enjoying it, that's all that matters. You shouldn't have to give up what you love just for someone else. There was something deeper in his gaze when he said that. I thought I understood what he meant. I opened my mouth to respond, but then stopped myself. While I was still trying to make sense of things, Caleb unconsciously leaned a little closer. The air between us grew still and heavy. You're not, I began. Tess. A voice suddenly cut me off. We both turned. It was Victor, and beside him stood Lucy. Caleb greeted him calmly. Victor, bringing your wife out for roast duck? Victor shot him a look. What nonsense are you talking about? Lucy just had a craving. My wife is Tess. Standing behind him, Lucy bit her lip, clearly unhappy with that statement. Our baby has been so restless. Everything I eat makes me nauseous. Victor patted her hand to comfort her, then turned to look at me. What are you doing here with Caleb? And sitting so close together? I picked up another piece of duck and took a bite. What does it look like, just having a meal? He narrowed his eyes. Don't lie to me. You don't even like duck. I set my chopsticks down and looked at him coldly. You're the one who didn't like duck. I've always enjoyed it. And one more thing, Victor. Stop blaming others for the failure of your marriage. He didn't let up. His tone turned bitter. When Caleb refused to help me, I already thought something was off. Now I see you two here together. What else was there to say? Tess, you're ruthless. You cheated on me with my best friend. Before I could respond, Caleb suddenly lost his temper and punched him across the face. If you can't say something decent, then just shut up. After Caleb threw a punch at Victor, everything happened so fast. Victor, stunned for half a second, immediately retaliated with a punch of his own. The two men exchanged blows right in the middle of the restaurant, knocking over chairs and drawing startled gasps from nearby diners. It wasn't a long fight, more a clash of raw emotions than brute strength, and before anyone could step in, it was already over. When it ended, Caleb had a split lip and a bruise blooming on his cheekbone, but His expression remained calm, almost stubbornly so. He didn't say another word, just stood there, breathing hard, watching as I quietly walked over and took his arm. Outside the restaurant, I pressed a cold towel against his face. O.W. Easy, would you? He winced. I shot him a glare and pressed. Even harder. You knew it would hurt, and you still went around punching people, Caleb pouted. I couldn't just stand there while he insulted you. I went quiet for a moment before finally saying, You didn't have to do that for me, Caleb. He didn't say a word. He simply made sure I got home safely. The next morning, I had barely opened my eyes when a commotion outside broke the silence. Still groggy, I threw on a coat and headed downstairs. There, I saw Victor's mother had arrived, dragging Lucy along with her. They seemed to be arguing about something. Our housekeeper was trying to calm her down as she flailed and yelled. Meanwhile, Lucy was clutching her belly, murmuring something through her tears. I calmly called the police before walking down the stairs. The moment she saw me, Victor's mother acted like she had just found a lifeboat, spewing every hateful word she could think of. Lucy told me everything. You've been messing around with Caleb. Do you really think you deserve someone like Victor? I responded with a question of my own. Tell me, what exactly is your relationship with this Lucy? She hesitated. She's just a girl I have a lot of affection for. I gave a dry laugh, but didn't expose her hypocrisy. She mistook my silence for agreement. Tess, I've never treated you badly all these years. Our family only has one son. We've waited so long for a grandchild, and I never once blamed you for not giving us one. So the mask finally came off. I never stopped Victor from leaving. He's free to divorce me and have a child with someone else, if that's what he wants. Her face lit up at those words. Just as she was about to respond, Victor rushed onto the scene. Mom, what are you doing here? She lowered her voice but continued shouting. Lucy said Tess isn't good enough for you anymore, so I came to talk. Lucy flinched under his sharp gaze and stammered. I didn't mean anything by it. I just blurted it out. With Victor present, his mother became even more aggressive. Tess, after what you've done to Victor, you owe us an explanation. What do you plan to do? I replied calmly. What exactly do you want me to do? Without hesitation, she snapped. Leave with nothing. I scoffed. That's bold of you. Then I turned to Victor. Is that what you want to? He shook his head quickly. No, of course not. Come. I lifted my chin and gestured toward Lucy's pregnant belly. Your son got another woman 7 months pregnant, and I haven't even asked for him to leave with nothing. Meanwhile, you're here crying about fairness? His mother finally dropped the act. You married into our family and didn't give us a single child. My son finding someone else to carry on the bloodline is only natural. If you can't give us an heir, the least you could do is feel guilty and take care of Lucy during her pregnancy. I remembered how this same woman once kicked out a new wife in the past. She had never been this understanding before. Now she had the nerve to come begging. Unbelievable. Just then, the police arrived. Who called this in? I raised my hand and pointed toward the group. Officer, they entered my home without permission. Hearing that, Victor's mother shouted, What do you mean? You're my daughter-in-law. This house is part of our family's property. Seeing the situation spiral, Lucy tried to fake a fall in front of me, hoping to play the victim, but I sidestepped just in time, and she stumbled and fell by herself, clutching her stomach and wailing. Dramatically, her screams cut through the noise. The room went silent. Victor and his mother rushed to her side, panicked, trying to call an ambulance. Strangely, Lucy refused to go to the hospital. She insisted she wouldn't go unless she had a legal status in the family. This threw both of them into chaos. I took out the divorce agreement and calmly said, I'm not walking away empty-handed. I have enough evidence to destroy your public image. If you want this mess to go public and taint your stock prices, be my guest. Victor's mother shoved him toward me. Why are you hesitating over a barren woman? What matters now is the child in Lucy's belly. That's the future of our family. Lucy began to cry even harder. With both women pressuring him, Victor clenched his jaw and finally signed the divorce papers. Once she got the confirmation she wanted, Lucy allowed the paramedics to wheel her away. The mess finally came to an end. His mother was sentenced to 15 days of administrative detention. Later that week, I was at an amusement park with Caleb, enjoying myself, when Victor called. Tess, could you write a letter of forgiveness for my mother? Caleb handed me a cheese stick. I took a big bite, chewing slowly. On what grounds? She barged into my house and hurled baseless accusations at me. Honestly, 15 days was generous. On the other end, he sounded desperate. She's old, Tess. She can't handle being in there. Strange. She seemed very full of energy when she was yelling at me the other day. He was at a loss for words. Just then, Caleb pointed ahead. There's a stand selling roasted flatbreads. Want one? I nodded. Double quotes, yes. Before he could say anything else, Victor asked suspiciously, You're with Caleb right now? I replied simply, It's none of your business, and hung up the call. The amusement park trip had initially just been part of a worksite visit, but after we wrapped up the inspection, Caleb tempted me with snacks, and we ended up spending the entire afternoon goofing off like kids. For a moment, I almost forgot everything, until a familiar ringtone dragged me back to reality. As expected, my parents called me that evening. All they said was, Come home for a visit. I sighed. Clearly, Victor had gotten to them first, and sure enough, when I stepped into the living room, there he was, sitting on the sofa, smiling politely while chatting with my father. When he saw me, he stood up and moved toward me like everything was normal. Tess, you're back. I shook his hand off my shoulder coldly. What did you tell my parents? He played innocent. Nothing really, just explained a few misunderstandings. That was the moment I realized I'd never truly known this man. The shamelessness. The smooth lies. It was like looking at a stranger. My father came over just then and said gently, Don't blame Victor. We watched him grow up. We know what kind of person he is. Exactly, my mom added, walking in with a tray of sliced fruit. That Caleb guy doesn't sound much better. According to Victor, he never even properly ended things with his ex. I gave a tired smile. Mom, Dad, there's nothing between me and Caleb. We're just business partners. But my father didn't want to hear it. He cut in firmly. It doesn't matter. End things with that Caleb guy and make things right with Victor. Without a word, I took out the divorce agreement signed by Victor and placed it on the table. We're already divorced. There's no making things right. It broke. I hurt a little to say it. My parents had treated him like their own son. They never imagined the boy they watched grow up would turn out like this. Still, I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to protect him any longer. He's the one who broke your trust. He got someone else pregnant. The baby's already 7 months along. Victor went pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but I had already taken out the evidence and handed it to my parents. They looked at it in silence, their expressions growing heavier by the second. He probably assumed I'd keep quiet to spare my parents' feelings. But he was wrong. I wasn't going to suffer just to save his face. Eventually, they showed him out, politely but firmly. My parents looked years older as they turned back to me. The baby? Is that true? I nodded. I have all the proof. They sighed again, and my father asked, And what about this Caleb? I shook my head. He's just a business partner. Whatever Victor said was an exaggeration. My father looked tired. From now on, we won't interfere. I didn't say anything. No one had expected things to fall apart like this. In the end, Victor gave in to his mother's pressure and married Lucy. An invitation arrived at my door. At first, I had no intention of attending that farce. But then Caleb showed up with a dress and heels in hand, grinning as he invited me to crash the party. I took the outfit from him with a sarcastic smirk. You must really be bored. He gave me a mischievous look. There's going to be a show. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. When we arrived at the venue, Victor's mother was already throwing dagger-like stares in my direction. Oh, my son's so lucky, she sneered. He may have made the wrong choice once, but he's seen the light. Soon, I'll be holding an adorable little grandson. She even leaned toward Caleb, whispering, You better be careful, dear. Mary, an ungrateful barren woman like her, and it will curse your whole family. Caleb gave her a polite smile. No need to worry about me, ma'am. You might want to focus on your own house instead. Just as he finished speaking, the large screen behind us, which had been showing romantic wedding footage, suddenly switched. A voice recording played loud and clear for all to hear. Am I better than him? Of course you're better. You're so naughty. Once I get my hands on the Collins family's money, I'll take the kid and run away with you. That old man. Oh, I'm sick of pretending. Gasps echoed through the room. Victor's face turned deathly pale. Victor's mother had no words left for me. She stormed toward Lucy, shouting, You conniving little witch, you fooled me? Lucy frantically tried to explain, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But no one believed her. Victor looked at me and Caleb with complicated eyes. Like he wanted to say something, then gave up Dot as we left that wreck of a wedding. I glanced at Caleb. That's the show you mentioned? He nodded. Pretty satisfying, right? I smiled faintly. Weren't you two best friends? Why would you do this to him? Caleb shrugged. I just couldn't stand the way he treated you. Before he could finish, I suddenly reached out, grabbed his chin, and turned his face toward me. His eyes widened. What are you doing? I didn't answer. I just said firmly, you like me? He froze, cheeks turning red. No, I don't. I don't like you. Really? I asked, gaze steady. The silence stretched between us before he finally gave in and pulled me into a hug. Fine, I like you. I've liked you for a long time. My future finally felt bright and full of hope. Side story. Victor's POV when Lucy barged into the VIP lounge where I was drinking. I was already completely drunk. She cried and shouted in front of me, but I felt absolutely nothing. Her tears streaked. Distorted face slowly faded from my mind, replaced by another, calm and cold, with eyes full of quiet disdain. It was Tessa's, who was once my wife, now no longer, because I had lost her. She had divorced me. I remembered the last time I tried to gain her sympathy by drinking until I had a stomach hemorrhage. I thought she would show concern. But on the phone, her voice was as cold as ice. She told me to call Lucy instead. It was my fault. I assumed she would never leave me, so I kept pushing her over and over. If Tess returned to me now, would everything go back to the way it was? No, it never would. That realization hit me hard. She would never love me again. Lucy was still chattering beside me, but I couldn't hear a word. My mind was stuck on the same loop. Tess would never love me again. A voice echoed in my head. She's never coming back. She will never love you again. You've lost her for good. Regret and pain surged through me, overwhelming and uncontrollable. I broke down and cried right there. Eventually, Lucy left. My parents constantly urged me to move on, arranging blind dates for me. I went along sometimes, just to appease them, but every time I sat across from another woman, Tess's face appeared in my mind. I remembered her wide-eyed innocence, her strength, her fatigue, her indifference. Every version of her stayed with me. None of the dates ever went anywhere. How could I accept someone new when I'd already lost the one person who had truly left me? Time passed. Years went by. My parents, anxious that I was still single, started to go gray. I grew tired of those matchmaking efforts and decided to adopt a child for them to take care of. I handed the company over to a professional CEO. Then I started traveling. My first destination was the beach Tess used to dream of visiting. Back then, she'd always told me she wanted to walk along the shore with me. But I was always too busy, always brushed it off. Eventually, she stopped bringing it up. Now, I came to that beach alone. It was beautiful. I walked along the sand in silence, and her silhouette appeared again in my mind. I had secretly gone to see her a few times. She looked happy. From time to time, I would quietly watch her from afar, sometimes from a coffee shop near her office, seeing her rushing off for meetings, sometimes outside her yoga studio, watching her laugh with friends. Never dared to approach. Just seeing her from a distance was enough. Until the day she got married. Caleb cherished her in a way I never did. He never made her cry. He came to talk to me once. He knew I was still watching over her. That day, he stood in front of me like someone who had already won. Every glance and movement of his was filled with joy. At one point, he gently ran his fingers over his wedding ring. Nice, right? He asked. I couldn't stop staring at it. Then he smiled, as if he'd been waiting for this chance to say, I've only ever bought a ring for one woman, Tess. There was something pointed in his tone. I thought I had grown numb, but hearing that still made it hard to breathe. I couldn't help wondering if I hadn't been so arrogant, if nothing had ever happened with Lucy, if I had never broken that promise. Would we still be a happy family? But back then, I was greedy. I had her, but I still wanted a child. In the end, I lost everything. Caleb looked at me with pity in his eyes. Let her go, he said. I understand the pain. Just imagining losing her suffocates me. But you actually lost her. You have to move forward. I understood what he meant, but deep down, I still clung to the tiniest hope. What if Caleb fell out of love someday? Would I have another chance? After all, people change, don't they? But reality proved me wrong. Caleb adored her. He treated her like a precious treasure. When she pouted, he gave in. He indulged her every whim, over and over, I watched them from the shadows, consumed with guilt. It was like he could read my mind. Let it go, he said. I never planned to take her away from you. At first, I just wanted to stay close to her, even if that meant being your friend. But when I saw her hurting, it tore me apart. I kept wondering why I wasn't the one beside her. And when I finally had the chance, do you think I'd let anyone take her back? I said nothing. Just lifted my glass and downed it in one shot. I attended their wedding too. As just another guest. I prepared a thick red envelope. The thought of stopping the wedding crossed my mind more than once. But I crushed it every time. A voice kept repeating. In my head, you already hurt her once. Are you going to do it again? I no longer had the courage. I no longer had the right. Laughter and celebration filled the air around me. I stood there alone, thinking how a view this beautiful was never meant to be seen by just one person. Sometimes, I still imagine a world where I wasn't the man I became. In that world, I was better, kinder. In that world, I still had her. And we had a home full of laughter and children. But that world only exists in dreams. Thank you for listening to today's story on fried chicken audio. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you more heartfelt stories like this. We'll see you again in the next video. Until then, take care and keep loving stories. Ask ChatGPT.